and Germany, and they traveled to the US because they lost the fight of the independence in Poland, so they wanted to help the US to win. So this is like two most popular Polish people in the United States. I think they were like officers in the US Army. Yeah, what I want to speak with you about is the remote work and how it changed the teams, how it changed the role of the leaders and all of us. Like if I could compare, and I will do it in a few slides, how big was the change in Europe? How many of you cooperate with European companies or have like outsourcing organization working for you from Europe? Yeah, so it's a little bit different how the remote work was done there, and the possibilities for the employees to work remotely were totally different. I think it's in Eastern Europe, it's more similar to what it happens in Asia, because people live in flats, not in houses in the most cases. And in UK and in US, I feel like houses are the most popular. So yeah, a bit of the context about me. It's like I spent over 20 years doing the quality assurance. It's over 5 years that I'm a public speaker on conferences. Most of them I did in Europe. This year is the first year that I'm outside of Europe. So I did like a conference in Ohio in May, and now I'm here as a speaker. In case of remote working, basically I'm the team leader of fully remote team in Poland. So all of my team doesn't go to the office. We are fully remotely focused, and I'm the only remote member of the quality engineering team from Germany. So basically my department is like around now, after the connection with Carrier and some merging, it's like 56 people. 55 of them are in Allendorf and one of them is in Poland. So I'm like the only remote member for a local team that is visiting the office. And I'm also like a hobby, I'm doing like photography on ADCC events for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's fully remote organization. So basically we spend time together only online for the whole year, and then once in 2 months we visit one of the competitions in a different country in Europe. We play the roles of organizers or the referees, or I'm a photographer, sometimes I'm a referee, so it's also fully managed. In a remote perspective, in our organization, the remote work was something that triggered like the change of the culture. It triggered the change of the new way of working and totally new teams dynamics. But the biggest problem that we had was the meeting overload. So the first observation that I had was basically when you work in the office, the limitation of the meeting rooms sometimes limits the number of meetings. When you work remotely, calendar can accept infinite number of meetings, basically, and everybody is trying to push one more meeting in your calendar. So yeah, I will show you some tricks how to make them stop because it's getting really complicated, and we did some tricks around it to solve it. Some of them I know that works in Google Calendar. I don't know if they works in Outlook Calendar, but I will mention that I know that it works at the Google site. But how this is all of it started. So the Polish IT sector, like most of the Eastern Europe, was fully focused on working in the office, like before COVID. The recruitment was only local, so you only hired people that finished studies or were working in the same city that the office was. I think the highest travel, like basically in case of Poland, I think in my organization, if you were living farther than 50 miles from the office, then if you visited the office, you had free booking of the hotel from the organization because it was treated like far away, and it was like 1 hour drive. So it was interesting because I was visiting the office 5 days a week and I never used the hotel. And I was always laughing about this policy, and I said it's like disaster policy. Like anybody can use it against you. Like this is not so far away. Like 50 miles, it's not such a huge problem. Yeah, and basically there was like the strategy was like on independent sites oriented. So we had like a project assigned to a different office, and there was like no shared teams between two different sites. It was like full responsible on a single office. And what was told, what we were told as a team leaders was like the management by walking. I think it's a British model of doing the management. So basically, it's not management oriented on the um, doing many meetings with your team members. It's just because you are all in the office, the whole discussions and meetings is happening because you are working around your team, and you just sit by somebody, spend an hour or two discussing some stuff, and then you move to another desk. So that was the management toolkit, I would say, that was introduced for us. So like there was only local leaders, local processes, different offices has totally different approaches sometimes, and there was only local events. So there was no shared events across the teams to meet each other and integrate or anything like this. And then the pandemic happened. So from my perspective, the pandemic was only the accelerator to something that was already started. So like few months or a year before the COVID, there was already some startups in Europe that were like remote first organizations. So there was a huge pressure inside Europe to start enabling remote working. I think my company, after like 4 years, allowed me to work from home once a week or twice a week already. So what was happening was the revolution was also already behind the corner. That's why after the pandemic finished, no companies try in Poland at least. I think there was only 2 cases that they tried to move everybody back to the office, and it was like the whole department resigning from work basically, like on the same day, like 50 people give the resignation. And then the next day was the manager saying, we were just laughing about this going back to the office, just stay at our side. I know that in one of the software houses in Poland, the whole department moved to a different software house from one day to another with the whole infrastructure, with the laptops, with everything. Like they moved the whole site because that company said that you will go back to the office, and the other company said that they are not moving people to the office, and they were doing the business in totally different domains. So there was like no competitor clause behind it, because it was totally different market. Like one software house was in automotive and the other was in agriculture, but the processes were pretty the same. So they moved the whole teams, like from the COO of that business unit with all the developers, testers, everything moved to a different house, to a different flat. Yeah, in case of this one, it was exactly the same. So after the revolution, we have remote talent. So there's like people from all around Poland working for us, not only from Wrocław. We have cross-site teams. So I'm the only member, for example, in the quality department that it's not in Allendorf. We have the global role spread. So thanks to the remote work, it was a lot easier for people from Poland to get like a chief architect role for some of the program that is happening in Germany or happening in distant countries. And the remote leadership model was created, but it was not created by Wisman as an organization. I think it was most like a bottom-up initiative that some of us as leaders created our model, how to be the remote leaders. The problems, it's heavily focused on online communication. I don't enjoy it too much because I was always like a leader that was doing this walking and sitting by different desks. So I'm visiting the office once a week, and I spend like 80% of the time crashing somebody's calendar. So I'm sitting next to him, starting a discussion. We spend like 2 hours discussing some subject, and then suddenly he realized that he missed 2 of his meetings and he need to catch up. And that's when I'm showing him, like, it was never a problem before the remote work, and now it's a problem for you that you spend 2 hours with me when we sit together in an office, because the online meeting for you has a higher priority than sitting with somebody in your team, and I don't like it. It's something that I really hate, and I think that companies need to try to embrace the remote team to do some processes. So Wisman is still on the process definition stage. We still try to define the processes in a way that they can be done fully remotely. Like we still try to just evaluate the projects against the processes that were defined for the in the office working, and it ends up really badly with some of the teams. So, for example, most of the developers on our side, for example, work remotely. But because testing requires testing with the real devices in dedicated laboratory, then all the testers are still going to the office. There is no mandate from the company perspective that they need to go to the office, but they cannot test anything if they don't go to the office. So that's the way how part of the teams are pushed to be in the office, but there is no mandate from Wisman perspective. From Wisman perspective, the goal that we propose is if you find a way like virtualization or simulation or anything that can replace the testing with real devices, then use that solution, and then you don't have to work from the office. Yeah, but basically it's up to the team to find a way how to do it if they don't want to go. Yeah, and my team is very specific. So it's like 5 people team of the quality managers. Some of them work on a daily basis in office. One of our team members goes to the office every day. I'm like 200 kilometers away and I'm fully remote. And one guy is, sorry, the 200 kilometers is the guy that is fully remote. I'm visiting the office once a week, and we've got 2 guys in the office and in Wrocław, and they are visiting the office in a hybrid way. So they go to the office only when I go to the office. If I'm not in the office, then they work remotely. Yeah, so the difference that our team has, and it may affect the practices that I will show you later, is that my team is fully separated. So we don't have any overlapping activities. In my team, like there's a quality manager dedicated, 3 quality managers dedicated to different departments, and 2 fault coordinators also dedicated to different departments. So it's not like a developers and testers team that need to collaborate very much. So you might see that some of the practices will be hard to implement in a Scrum team, maybe, but I believe it could be. And we've got like one shared local line manager, so he's like the direct supervisor for us. It's only because of the legal issues. So basically, in Polish law, there is a saying that your line manager has to be from the same country that you are working in. So that's why I'm like the only member of the German team in Poland, but my line manager needs to be in Poland. Because that's what law says. It's the only thing that I'm discussing with my line manager is when I plan to be out of the office or I have a sick leave. So I meet him like, I think once in a quarter. I'm doing like on monthly basis. I'm giving him just a hint what I was working on during the last month, and that's the whole communication that we do. So in terms of the future, from my perspective, to be honest, I feel like all the companies in Europe, they will never move back to the offices because basically office cannot handle this. So most of the organization, because they started to hire remote talent, they started to be like twice bigger than the offices. So Wisman had an office for 200 people. Now we are 460. So there's no way that we could fit to that office. Some of us has like multiple hundreds of kilometers to travel. So there is no pressure to move us back to the office, and I think most of the companies did that this way. So they reduce the office space, or they reduce the network infrastructure. So basically, if one of the teams has like a team integration in our office in Poland, and they decided that 20 of them or 30 of them will arrive at the office, they may make all the meetings with turn off cameras because the network cannot handle that. So basically, when I speak with our head of the office, that maybe one day there will be like all 400 of us coming to the office, and I said, why did you get rid of so much infrastructure? And he said, yeah, because I thought about the savings. I didn't thought about maybe one day there will be moving people back to the office. And I said, now, so because of that, now you are the first blocker that will not allow our management to move people back in the office, because you will have to tell them that it's like several million euros of investment in the office before it will be ready for so many people. Yeah, what are the practices and the risks that I feel for remote teams? So for the first thing that I think it's the switching on thing. It's just there is no clear split that you do your work or at the office and you don't do your work at home. And then there is a lot of challenges about the distractions and time management when you work from home. Like basically my girlfriend with whom I lived with, when I started to work remotely, she had never worked remotely before. So every day in the morning when she was leaving to the work, she made me like a list of things I need to do during my remote work, like cook the dinner, pick up the girl from the school, clean up the house, do the laundry, all that stuff. And I said, I'm working. I'm just moving to a different room, but I'm still working. And she didn't understood that. So thankfully, during the COVID, she had to do the remote work. And no, I didn't make the list. I just ask her to still do the list, like write it down, and then try to do it herself. I didn't force like I will put my points on that list. It's like do the same list you did for me and try it out how many points you can take from that list during making like the remote lessons for the whole day and having like 10-minute breaks between the lessons. Um, so what we did as a solution for that, so one of the most important things that I focused on and remember from going to the office is like this coffee time when you arrive at the office. So there's like always like first 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it's you go to the kitchen, you make a coffee, make some discussions, and then you go to your desks, to your computers. So what we decided to do, we do like a start of the day optional team sync. So it's like a half an hour meeting that is fully optional for all the team members to join. We try to do it like before the stand-ups if somebody is joining other stand-ups of the project teams. And basically there is a space to discuss everything. So there's like it's like a discussion in the kitchen. You can speak about something around the project that you work on. You can ask some questions about some company town hall news that you heard, or you can just say, yesterday on TV I watched some program and I'm bothered by it, or I had a really bad training at the gym yesterday, or during the weekend I did some competition and my leg hurts. Anything is welcomed. That's basically the idea, is to have like this coffee talk or breakfast talk between each other, like a talk in the kitchen. It's fully optional, so if somebody don't want to do it, they can just not join it, but it's like put in their calendars. So that's one of the things also that that work of those things that works in Google Calendars. If you have an invite to a meeting, I don't know if it works the same way in Outlook, but if you have an invite to a meeting in Google Calendar, you don't accept it, but it stays in your calendar. It shows you that you are busy during that time to others that try to invite you to the meeting. So if there is a meeting that somebody invites you in and you don't want to go to that meeting, but you want to use that time to do some actual work, not to get different invite during the same time, one of the ideas is just to not respond to the invitation, and it will say to everybody else that you are booked during that time. And this is one of the practice that we try to use. So even if somebody has like the really important thing to do in the morning, they have this booked time, they just not join the call, but they got this half an hour to do whatever they need, and nobody will bother them with additional meetings during that time. The additional thing that I think is really important is the switching off. So I have very big problem about it. So usually in some of the parts of the year, I know that I should finish my work because it's dark outside, and that's around the time that I should finish, and that makes it very difficult with the summer because it's the day is very long. And it's my girlfriend sometimes like rushing to the room and asking why you are still sitting by the computer. So what we try to do, I'm trying to support my team members in any after work activities. So if anybody of them will tell me that they are doing like daily gym trainings or anything, then sometimes on those morning meetings, I ask them, how was the training yesterday, just to make sure that he went to that training. And ask them about the hobbies or anything like this, just to make sure that they don't spend like the whole evening working as I do, for example, sometimes. I try to embrace the achievements. So sometimes we do some diplomas or any other stuff, send over some gifts to each other. We know the addresses, so we not have to always like to do it. Yeah, but that's something that we try to do. So we try also to make like a lot of online meetings that are oriented to make the integration between the team members. So I'm trying to do this to support any private life problems that they have. I'm sometimes pushing them if they have some problems with in their private life that they can use that time. Just book it in your calendar that this is my private time slot. I'm dealing with something during that time, and then add like in also in Google Calendar you have the option that you can set the working hours for yourself, so everybody can see in which hours you plan to work during which day. So you can like take out like 3 hours from your calendar and add the working hours in a totally different time that you will be reusing the time that you take off. I enjoy it when I'm traveling like here to Portland because basically I can set up my working time to the Pacific time zone and can reject all the meetings that I have in European time zone. And I have like a single response. Please look at my working time and adjust the meeting schedule to the working time. So there's like working time is also good because everybody will see it in your calendar. So they will see that they are booking a meeting with you outside of your working time, and you might just not join it. Yeah, I think that one of the biggest conflicts is that you work at home. So in Europe, because we have the flats, not the houses. We don't build additional room for work, or we are not from UK where we get houses with garden. That all of my managers from the UK build like a small studio house inside the garden, and they are dressing up for work and moving through the garden to a different space. It's really convenient, but most of the Europe cannot do it. So you need to understand it. I think you need to be to have the empathy about it, and you need also to allow people to decide when they are working. So I like the presentation yesterday about the security community at Cobalt when the manager said that they are doing like in a way that the contractors are deciding when and how they are doing the tasks. There is no forced like working hours of them. It's like fully flexible. So I'm trying to do it on my own at my team and allow people just to put like a private live also meetings in their calendar that I know that they are not available. So I will not push nothing to their calendar. And they can like not be afraid that I will catch them at the hairdresser or anything like this. It's like they got it like we inside have an open communication. When I'm going to the barber shop, I have a meeting in my calendar that says like a booked visit at a barber shop. If I'm changing the tires from summer tires to winter tires in my car, I got a booked meeting in my calendar. They know about it in 2 weeks advance. If they have any plans about meeting with me, they see my working hours. I'm not here during this slot, but I'm available in the other slot or during the weekend or anything like this. I think it's really important. Yeah, so that's the pushing people to just don't be afraid to move the private meetings to your calendar openly. So basically, if one of the managers finds out about it and it doesn't like it, then I ask my team members to just tell the manager that tries to escalate it to go to me, and then I'm saying to him, this is the way of working of my team. It's allowed. They can do it. If it's breaking like a Polish law, then I'm responsible for that, not the team members, because I said to them, you can do it. If it's not breaking the Polish law, then allow my team work the way we are working, because it's not your business. You can manage your team however you want, but my team is led by me, and that's my grand rules, and we can do it. So I believe that the 9 to 5 approach is like the old world approach. It's like basically in most of the Polish cities, if you need to do anything at the government office or with the authorities, they got this 9 to 5 opening hours. So if you will try to be remote worker focused on every time be available between 9 to 5, you will never arrange anything to be done from like local authorities perspective, because they don't have it. I think the trust is the most important thing that is needs to happen in the remote working teams. I think yesterday I seen an article from Spotify, they were asked about what's the response to Amazon moving the people to the office, and they responded, our employees are not children. We have no plans to moving them back to the office. And that was the whole response they made. And I think that's the European approach to the remote work. Like they are based fully in Scandinavia, and they are fully remote. And most of the companies in Europe, that's how they feel about that's what they feel about moving back to the office. They don't think about it from infrastructure perspective or the government perspective or taxing perspective. For them, it's all about trust. If you allow your people to work remotely, it means you trust them. If you force them to go back to the office, it means you treat all of them as juniors, as children, and that you need to do the micromanagement. Yeah. It's there is like local laws in different countries, but most of the rules from the law is like basically that the line manager has to be in the same country. Or for example, I cannot be a member, like when I'm member of Polish R&D office, I got the line manager, I cannot be moved fully to be like remote contractor for Allendorf office in Germany, because I need to be living in Germany to do it. If I'm living in Poland and working directly in Germany as a contractor, then I'm paying double taxes for both countries. It's the government policy. Yeah, because inside the company, it was my managers tried to move me to Germany, but then I said that I will be not moving. You can change the assignment for me to a German office, but I will not move away from Poland to Germany. And then it got blocked because of this government ideas. I think it's still like, it's a big problem in European Union, because basically European Union is telling everybody that we are like connected countries and we cooperate and the borders are open. But basically, if you work directly as a B2B, business to business contractor or permanent employee to a company from a different country, but you live in a different country inside Europe, you are always paying double taxes. If you work with Croatia, Germany, Netherlands, either you move them and spend half of the year locally in that country, you have the address there, bank account there, or you are paying double taxes. And that's what's happening. So one of the things that I'm pushing on my teams is I try to push them to understand when is the best peak time performance for them. There's a lot of exercises and research done around it that you can double check what's the peak time performance from you. And I try to ask the team to plan the day according to the best performance they can achieve. So basically, if you are like an early waking up person and love to start your work at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m., just do it, because that's your peak performance. If you want to sleep until 10 and miss all our daily optional call every day, but your peak performance is in the afternoon, just try and do it. If your peak performance is in the evening, just take a 2-3 hours break in the middle of the day, and then put those 2 or 3 hours in the evening for work if your family allows you to do it. I try to give the freedom to the people to decide how they want to do it. I only ask them to remember about 40 hours per week. That's the rule that we have in Poland, that you need to work 40 hours per week. And I say, don't focus on the 8 hours per day. Don't focus about weekdays and the weekends. Just plan it as best it fits to you, fits to the company needs, and fits to your family. That's the idea behind the remote working. I did a switch of naming. So for me, face-to-face meeting, when I'm directly speaking with my team member, is always happening in person. So when we plan these meetings in the calendars, if I plan it as a face-to-face meeting, it's either we meet together in Wrocław in the office, or we meet together in some strange way I'm traveling by car to his city, or we meet halfway in some restaurant, for example, or something like this. If it's happening online, I call it like one-to-one meeting. So then that person knows. I usually book the meetings with my team like directly every week on Tuesday. If they see that it's booked in the name of one-to-one meetings, they know that I'm not going to the office to Wrocław. If it shows them face-to-face meeting, they know that I'm in the office, and then they can just propose the name change from face-to-face to one-to-one, and that's why I know they are not going to the office. So that's the easiest way how to do it. For me, this I try to do it on a weekly basis with every team member from my team. On one single day, I got like the full day schedule with meetings. But what I do is I always ask them to decide how we want to spend that time. So all the topics that we discussed during this meeting are the topics that are brought by the team member to me. If he needs help with something, if he needs any support, decision to be made, brag about something that he achieved, or say that he's got problem with this and that, it's up to them. If I want to give them feedback or discuss anything from my side, I don't use that meeting for that. I do a separate meeting for any feedback loop from my side, and basically then I put the correct title for the meeting. So if I want to give a feedback to that person, I do like a meeting name, a feedback session, and I booked it in a different time slot, and that person knows that they don't have to just prepare themselves what I'm planning to do. So I'm planning to give them feedback. I'm planning with them a feedback session. So we'll join together, and that will be the meeting when I'm the owner of the content, and I will give them the message that I want to give. This is the meeting directly for them. Because of the remote teams, we try different approaches. So as I said, visiting cities or going together for a lunch or a dinner in a different city, for example. What I really liked during the summer was remote walks. So basically, when we had like this face-to-face meeting or one-to-one meeting and nobody needed to present anything on the screen, we dived in with our telephones, and we both went outside for a walk with our headphones, and we discussed everything just doing the walking, because there's sunny outside, there's a good weather. So why should we just sit by the computers and watch each other on the camera? If we have a need to watch each other, we turn on the cameras on the phones. We show somebody, yeah, I'm walking in the forest. Somebody is walking somewhere else, showing me like what's the weather like wherever they are currently. Sometimes it's funny, like I had some of my team members, for example, working remotely from Croatia, and they were walking through like the old town of some city, and they were showing me like the video, how that city looks like, how the weather is there. And because I always felt like Croatia is a too hot country for me, that with too hot temperature. But it's like, I feel like in the remote time, you need to be open for any alternatives. It's not good just to sit the whole day looking at your screen and then putting some different filters on top of your screen, different glasses and everything, just sometimes leave the room, just sometimes go outside, and the power of your telephone is big enough to do the video connection, to do the audio connection, and it's really nice. Yes, the thing that I want to emphasize, please remember that most of the houses or flats of your team members were designed to live there, not to work there. Not many people, when the COVID started and the remote work started, moved to a bigger house just to have a room for work. Not many people planned in advance that they will do remote working one day, and they have like a spare room to transfer it to a working space. And I would encourage you to never try to force your team members to do it. Like basically, don't allow your children to go to that room because you are remote working or something like this. It's not the idea, because from children perspective, this flat or this house is the place where the family lives. The children don't understand that suddenly this room is like a working room. And especially if sometimes the parents are working remotely in the children room, for example. So I got a lot of my friends when there was like a family of two with two children. Yes.
That I had this observation not too long ago. It used to be like pre-COVID or whatever you had some kind of situation where, for whatever reason, a person had a kid in the presence of a work meeting. In the TV show or movie, it was always like, "What's going on here? What's the meaning of this? What's that child?" And I found that since almost everybody was like remote for 3 years, and then even after, nobody cares. At least in my experience, if a kid pops into the room, laughs, says something, whatever,
Yeah.
everyone, nobody seems to care. People actually seem to like it.
Yes.
Are you coming across any kind of people who are bothered by the presence of a kid? I mean, there's reasons, proprietary discussions and things, of course, but most of the time it's like, your kid's there, who cares?
Yes. So basically, from like leaders' perspective or management perspective, I never had a problem with that, and I never met somebody who had a problem with that. But um, I have seen a lot of people that were embarrassed because the children was in the room, and they felt bad about it, even if there was no pressure from the management or the leadership that it's bad. And what I try to tell them on my meetings, I'm always like saying, if you think that your kid will join us in a meeting, you can tell me at the start of the meeting. It's always like it releases the pressure. Like when we have a meeting and the first sentence I hear, maybe later my daughter will join us. Okay, that's okay, fine. And then there is no pressure about don't come to the room, don't come to the room, don't be visible in the camera, and ask your father about it or stuff like this. Yeah. So I'm always trying to say that if you feel embarrassed about it, just say it loud that it's a risk that the children will join us, and at least you will feel better. For us, it doesn't make any change, but for your perspective, you will feel better that there's nobody having anything against that. Um, I feel like people like to observe the faces of others, and they try to recognize that somebody's angry that the kid is in the camera, even if nobody's saying anything and there's nothing behind it. And sometimes people like put pressure on themselves. That's my perspective. To show you an example, this is one of the examples of the analysis that was made from Europe, in what part of the home people are working remotely from. To be honest, observing even my team, I feel it's not true. I feel like where is the good weather, there is more than 1% of the people working from the yard. And I don't believe that nobody never works from the restroom. So basically, I don't believe that. I will never believe that there was never a situation like for at least 2 minutes you had to move to the restroom because all other rooms were taken by like in Poland there was a moment when all the children had like remote lessons, and both parents was working remotely during the highest like COVID restrictions. And I know my friends that have like a flat where there's like only 2 rooms, a kitchen and the restroom. And there's 4 of them doing those remote lessons and remote working during that time. And I'm sure that it's easier to close yourself in a restroom than sharing a room with your kid in the same table, just to have you have your business meeting and they got some English lessons or whatever they have. Yeah, so that's for sure. Um, yeah, so I think the working space challenge was very complicated in Europe, because most of the companies, when there was COVID restrictions, they just said, go and work from your home. If you need your monitor to take it with you, please do it. Very small number of companies like gave the money to buy a desk or buy a chair for yourself. So working from kitchen or from your bed or the bed of your children was a very common thing at the beginning. And I think it's interesting. One thing that I want to mention also is the meeting overload. So there are also research being done how the brain activity looks like when you do like 5 minutes breaks between the meetings and when you don't do it. So my advice is please do it. Again, try to search for a plugin for your calendar that will book like decompression time and add 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after, because if you don't do it, then basically the meeting will be extended and you will have no breaks between the meetings, and you will be not too happy about it and very tired and very stressful at the end. Your calendar can accept infinite number of meetings, so there will be everybody pushing those meetings to your calendar. One of the activities also that we do in my team, we do the deep focus time slots. Book them in our calendar to make it visible. If there is a tool or plugin that allows you to by default reject all the meetings that overlap your focus time, please activate it. Don't bother about what meeting you are rejecting. This is your focus time. You have the work to be done. If you are not like a manager that is doing 80% of the work during the meetings, but you are a developer or a tester that has to actually do some testing or put some code inside the Git, just do it in a focus time slot and say no meetings during that time. Yeah, I think that focus time is a lot more important than no meeting days, because focus time you can arrange it in like 1 hour, 2 hours, not like the whole days. Please don't make your calendars look like this. It's the worst way how you can do it, or that means you are a manager. Yeah.
And actually, by then, the inverse, try to keep your team members' calendars from looking like that.
Yes, exactly the same. Yes. So what we try to do. Do I have a? Okay, I don't have a slot for that. I think it's in the paper. So there are some. The using of the colors, for example, we do it very often. Like meetings that are work related are in blue. Meetings that are private meetings are in, for example, in green. Deep time focus is in yellow. So then we can see what kind of the meeting it is. But you need to have like a shared calendars between each other, because if the calendars are not shared, you will see only like the blocked spaces without the titles and all of them in one color. So you need to have the trust to share your calendar openly with other team members. Yeah, I think that one of the things that is important is that the way how people communicate has changed. Previously, it was like when you wanted to have like immediate response, you were either calling them or writing on Slack and expecting them to respond straight away. And if you write an email, then you expect that they will respond by the end of the day. My Gmail looks like this. I got 2,000 unread emails. When I check my phone on the text messages, I got 1,000 on not reading SMS messages. And I would assume if you need something immediately, just call them. Do like a huddle on Slack or call them by your phone. If you send them a message in Slack, expect them to respond by the end of the day. Usually, many of those people are just not double checking the Slack all the time in Europe. If you're sending them an email, many of those people will respond to that email once you booked a meeting with them and ask them about the email. So for me, the only thing that I used my email for was the invitation to the meetings. But when I found out that I can double check the invitation directly in a calendar, that was the moment I stopped using my email. I'm only using it when I need to send an email, but I'm not expecting any response to my email. Sorry? I don't hear you. You need to check the careers page on our side. It's like my company is like freezing the recrutations and unfreezing them on a random basis, and I'm not part of the software delivery department, so I have no idea. What's the status over there? Yeah. Yeah, so what's interesting from the being a leader perspective, I think that all the team building, it's now a responsibility of the leader. So I have no interaction with my HR department about anything. Like I want to have a workshop together. I want to have like a dinner together or whatever. We try to organize everything on our own. We try to do the offsites and remote building things on our own. We pay from our own money, and we just don't bother about the HR department because it's more of a pain than a pleasure to then organize such a meeting with them. And we try to be creative. So we combine like going to shooting range together with doing quarterly planning, just to make like a full day workshop, spend half of it on our business activities and half of it on doing the stuff. And please remember that when you are a team leader, you are the only person that knows what your team is doing. Like basically the leaders that are your leaders have no idea what your team is doing. If you are not pushing that message to them and using any opportunity to push that message, the visibility of your work of your team is nearly zero. And it's a very hard challenge. And from the other opposite perspective, your company expects you to push the message, clarify the message. Like they do once in a month town hall, they push many random messages in it, and then it's your responsibility to handle the feelings of your team, to handle the what that leadership team member meant by saying we start cooperation with India, we close cooperation with Vietnam, we are joining together with building products with Toshiba, for example, in our case. That's the question you can expect. There is nobody else that can answer them those questions because they have no direct access to anybody else from your company. So I think that's our responsibility as the leaders to be available for your team, and from other side to make the visibility of your team for others. Okay, I can skip that because we run out of time. Yeah, here is the QR code for my LinkedIn page. If you want to have any discussion, more additional questions, you can go through QR code or search for my name and last name on LinkedIn. And I hope that you will know more about the challenges that we have in Europe. Do we have the time for some questions, or it's like